Champion Fred Rodriguez there assessing his chances as we watch the riders roll out. Bob, interesting to hear how the riders have reacted to the changes in the course.
A little bit less climbing for this year's course, not favoring maybe some of the European-based pros, but it might give the domestic-based pros a little bit of a better chance to compete against the very best in the business, riders like George Hincapie and, of course, Levi Leipheimer.
It's really been great to see the way the crowds have turned out in Greenville this year. That is their favorite son, George Hincapie, on the front of the group. George was one of the riders that was called up to the line, an honor reserved for the American greats here.
Well, he is the defending champion of this event. He grew up on Long Island, but he's more or less a local here in Greenville, South Carolina, and all of the local fans have come out in force to watch him race today.
A really frenetic battle, Bob, to get into the early breakaway here today. That is Jonathan Sant of the Kelly Benefit Medifast team there that was one of the riders that made this selection.
And here is the main field trailing a little bit further down the road, and all of the Discovery riders in the domestic peloton, plus a couple of their European stars here in this group, but they're chasing a pretty serious breakaway already in the bike race, these riders having made a nice little maneuver here on the first climb of Paris Mountain.
Jackson Stewart of BMC on the front in red. And you can see the rider that he's taken with him, a very interesting group here, is representation from just about all of the American Continental and professional Continental teams. We're looking at Doug Olrenshaw of Health Net Maxis on the back, Tyler Wren of Colavita Sutter Home. That is Pat McCarty, one of the riders probably with the most European experience in this group.
Rider from the Phonak team, Pat McCarty, returned to race here domestically for the Slipstream Chipotle squad, one of the stalwarts of American cycling. Pat McCarty out in the breakaway, and they're being chased here by the Discovery team. No riders from that team in the break, and if they want to win the national title, they're going to have to do some serious tempo now.
Well, that's John Devine, who joined the team as an American development rider earlier in the year, racing for the VMG squad, and now he's made the jump onto the big Discovery Channel team. That's a real juggernaut here today, although they don't have the numbers that we usually see.
Devine, write that in your book for the future stars of the sport. Hincapie and Levi Leipheimer might have something to say. If anybody tries to get across, I'm sure that they will mark those accelerations because Discovery not representing in the break so far. Now the gap down to 139.
We take a look at this group, very strung out right now. That should tell us the tempo is starting to increase. We're looking at another former American champion there, Chris Baldwin on the time trial, his teammate Chris Weary in this field. That's Bobby Julich. Boy, Julich here with only Zabriskie, and Zabriskie really not participating in the road race today. I think he's already pulled out.
Dave Zabriskie winning the time trial. He won't worry too much about the road race results, but Bobby Julich would love to win a national title before he retires.
What does it tell you when you see a guy going to the Coca-Cola this early?
That means that he's either overheated a little bit or he's maybe getting the hunger knock and trying to get some quick calories and a little bit of caffeine just before the last few climbs.
Yeah, I don't know, with 50 miles left of racing remaining, that you go to the Coke this early, you're going to need a 2-liter, I think.
A big gulp would be in order. Here's the riders in the breakaway, and it looked like the Navigators, the last shot we had of the peloton, coming to the front, one of the strongest teams in North America. The Navigators bringing a strong group of riders here, including Kirk O'Bee, of course. Their fast man. If he can get over these climbs, he might have a shot at the title if it's a sprint finish.
Jackson Stewart starting to labor. And I'm wondering if that might be because his Health Net team really isn't sure exactly how things are going to play out here over the second half of the race. We're now looking at, boy, John Devine has also been a workhorse here today. He's still on the front.
A real lion's share of the work being done by John Devine. He's reduced the peloton to just a few very select riders in the front, and that is great work. He's brought that gap down. He kept it steady at 2 minutes, and he's brought it down within a minute 30, and here come the attacks.
And it looks like Leipheimer has lit it up now. Let's see who's going to be able to go with them. It looks like Baldwin is trying to mark this move very early to see this ferocious attack coming from Levi Leipheimer, but it is clearly on right now.
Levi attacking, John Devine doing the tempo to reduce that advantage. Levi saw John Devine swing off, and he threw in a huge attack. He's taken Chris Baldwin with him. Baldwin not working so far, but Levi has flown the coop now. Let's see what the response from the peloton is. This has to be all hands on deck.
You think Baldwin is a little surprised to see this happening? I mean, he was in perfect position to cover this move, but it sure was early.
No, I think Baldwin was ready for that. He seemed to be queuing off of Leipheimer, and right when Levi went, Chris Baldwin was straight onto his wheel. If you don't get on the early acceleration, you might never see Levi again, so good move by Chris Baldwin.
And now what we saw from last year, a great sign for American cycling. And here's a man who's done an awful lot for American cycling this year, Levi Leipheimer on the front. These two hanging on for grim death right now.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be very tough to match the acceleration by Levi. Levi carrying the torch for American cyclists in the Tour this year. Podium spot. He dreamed of that before the race started, and he also got a stage win in the final time trial of the event. What a great season. This man on the front has had, Levi Leipheimer, and he's looking to do more this year in that, and he wants to bookend the season here, and a great win here at the national title would do a lot for that.
Well, the news coming out a couple weeks ago that the Discovery Channel team is going to disband. Do you think that's going to affect the relationship between Leipheimer and Hincapie today? Because last year, even though Leipheimer was riding for the Gerolsteiner team, I mean, it clearly looked like Levi was helping Big George on his way to his national championship. That's got to change this year.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good point you bring up. This part of the season, a lot of riders changing teams, making contracts with other teams, so the allegiances constantly shifting. So don't necessarily look at this year's jersey, but look forward to next year, especially for the national title when all the marbles are in play.
Bob, when you see Chris Baldwin looking over his shoulder, is he hoping to see other riders coming up to this group?
He is definitely hoping to see for a little bit of help. Maybe he could slide down the line a little bit if he had to and still be in the breakaway, because Levi hasn't turned around. He's absolutely flying. And look at, that's David Rodriguez getting dropped, but Chris Baldwin hanging on.
A very impressive ride from the Slipstream Chipotle squad, as Mike Creed had a great ride in the time trial yesterday, and here today he's also looking sensational. First time that we've seen Tyler. It looks like Tyler Hamilton now is still in this group. Bobby Julich is still here, so the heavy hitters are in this group now, Bob.
George Hincapie in that group with Bobby Julich. They'll be waiting for the finale and see what they can do on the last couple of miles before the finish line. And here is Paris Mountain. This is the steep part of the climb, and Bajadali now really struggling. Look at Levi, so strong, so powerful. He's a compact rider, but unbelievable amounts of strength to weight ratio, and he's just tapping out a vicious rhythm.
I mean, right now, you see Fred Rodriguez, Bob, back in that group as well. He's a three-time U.S. professional champion. A lot of people thought this climb might have been a little too much for him, but doesn't appear to be the case today.
Fred Rodriguez, if this group comes back together, he'll have a great shot at the finish. Huge gear there, out of the saddle, doing a great job. Bobby Julich trying to get a little bit of redemption during his season. Maybe a few disappointments along the way this year, especially not being selected for the Tour by his team, CSC.
Well, I really don't think we can say enough about the turnout of the crowds in Greenville. It was absolutely sensational. We'll be back again next year, but today's race really showed that Greenville has really come to embrace the sport of their local hero, George Hincapie.
And that the American peloton is strong enough to support American-only national title. That's only the second year that we've had that. Before that, the foreign riders were invited to participate, and the first American would win the national title, but now it's all Americans.
And we're picking up the splits here as Bobby Julich about 30 seconds in front of this group. Swindlehurst is not going to be on it here as Hincapie hits it hard.
Ticket punched, he's off the back, and George chasing down Bobby Julich now. And we'll see what will happen when he gets up with Bobby Julich, if he can close that gap down.
Well, when he gets to Julich, this is another one of these very dynamic moments in the race, because Bob, really, he's not going to want to chase down his team. That would defy all logic to see Hincapie chasing down Julich
a little bit. Neil Shirley, congratulations now. Maybe Levi counting his chickens a little bit early, but perhaps they've hatched.
Well, we're seeing the split is continue to go up here. It's absolutely amazing. And as Levi Leipheimer now makes his way into the final sector of the course, this is going to be the real battle here. Hincapie, Rodriguez, and Shirley. And they are at 1 minute and 2 seconds back. They're not going to make the catch.
Well, this is George sitting on the wheel of Neil Shirley. Fred Rodriguez measuring them, trying to get to the line in one piece. But Neil Shirley, what a great ride he's done to get in with these big wigs of American cycling, Fred Rodriguez and George Hincapie.
Bob, the last 2 years we've had some real breakthrough performances. Last year it was Andy Bajadali of Jelly Belly, but this year certainly I think Neil Shirley has turned a lot of heads in Greenville.
Well, if he can get on the podium, he'll have a great ride, but he has to be two of the fastest men in the sport, in the sprint, and that is Fred Rodriguez as well as George Hincapie. Levi Leipheimer coming to the line now. This is a great moment in his career, going for the national title.
Leipheimer going to post it in Greenville, his first ever national championship. The crowd certainly seems to appreciate this effort. Thanking the Discovery Channel team. What a great sponsor. What an amazing ride it's been.
What a fantastic feeling for Levi Leipheimer. He won the Tour of California way back in February. Here we are in September, a national title from the man from Santa Rosa.
Now we've still got a battle, though, brewing right behind. It was a 1 minute gap, so it's going to be not too long until we see
Levi Leipheimer, after a great season, what a way to go out with a national title.
You couldn't ask for bigger crowds either.
Oh, absolutely. Greenville has turned out in force to watch these riders go up that, and that was a great effort by the town as well as Levi.
Councilman Sudduth and CEO of USA Cycling, Steve Johnson, presenting Levi with his Crystal Prize.